Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. And He will lift you up. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. And He will lift you up. Muhammad Ali, a great boxer, but he was never really known for being a very kind person. He was pretty mouthy. And once he was on an airplane, and as he often said, I'm the greatest, and he would tell people that. And he was on an airplane, and the flight attendant looked at him, and she saw that he didn't have a seatbelt on, and so she approached him and she said, "Mr. Ali, you have to fasten your seatbelt." And Ali responded, "Well, Superman don't need no seatbelt." And the flight attendant replied, "Superman didn't need an airplane either." And so, she kind of, I guess, sort of maybe put him in place in his arrogance there. And to be honest with you, I don't know if that's a true story or not. I do know that while he was arguably the greatest boxer of all time, he was also arguably the most cocky, the most arrogant boxer of all time. That's the way he came across, and sometimes that's difficult to listen to. Maybe we've struggled with that from time to time. I know I've struggled with that, being arrogant, being overconfident, wanting to have the center of attention, not being very, very humble and things. And Scripture tells us, God tells us through Scripture to handle things differently than that. In fact, in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3, it says, "Let nothing be done through strife or vain glory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves." Another version says this: "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves." And so, you know, that's a whole different way of handling things than being overconfident and boastful and wanting to be the center of attention and things. And so it's good for us to kind of understand what Paul is telling us in this verse, what it means to esteem others better than ourselves, or to value others better than ourselves. When Paul writes about strife and vainglory, or in this other version, when he writes about selfish ambition or vain conceit, he's using very strategic words there, Greek words there. The word for selfish ambition or strife is a Greek word, erytheia, which is a picture of a person who is jockeying for some kind of position. It's the person who's trying to make himself look more powerful or insightful or more significant or important in some way in the sight of other people. He wants people to see him as as a powerful person of position, if you will. And then Paul mentions vain conceit or vain glory, which is the Greek word kendoxia, if I'm saying that right. I'm not a Greek scholar, but I think that's how you say it. And it's an interesting mixture of concepts that describes the utter futility of such jockeying and positioning. So the word kendoxia, or kenodoxia, is a compound of the words kenos and doxis. Kenos describes something that is hollow or empty, and the word doxis is the word for glory. And when these two words are compounded together into one word, like it is in this verse, it sort of portrays this idea of hollow or empty boasting, a kind of self-glory that echoes self-promotion, is what that particular word means. And so when those two words come together in a phrase, it could mean simply, do not jockey for position to try to prove your importance to others with a lot of hollow and empty boasting and self-promotion. And so Paul says, instead of acting in this manner that is so wrong in God's sight, we are to act rather in lowliness of mind. So rather than being self-promoting and have this sort of empty and hollow boasting just to make ourselves look better, we're to act in lowliness of mind, or in humility. In humility. And that particular phrase comes from another Greek word, and it's really long, and if I try to say it, I'll butcher it. So I'm not going to try to say the actual word, but the first part of the word comes from a Greek word, tapenos, if I'm saying that right, which describes something that is lowly or humble or base. And it pictures the attitude of somebody that is unassuming and not self-promoting. Okay, it suggests the person who is modest, who is unpretentious, who is without airs about themselves. Even if he knows that he's more intelligent or more gifted or talented than others, he keeps it to himself. He doesn't say it out loud. He doesn't promote himself. He doesn't have a lot of empty boasting about it. And then the second part of the word, that longer word, is a word phoros, which meant to think. To think. And so when those two words are compounded together, that new word means to think lowly. Okay? To think modestly, to think in an unpretentious way about oneself, or modestly about oneself. And so a person who fits this particular description don't jockey for position of importance. They're not, hogging every conversation and trying to prove how great he or she is, telling self-promoting stories and things like that. Instead, this person has learned to esteem others better than himself, or value others better than himself. And that word esteem, it comes from another Greek word called hegeomai, which means to lead or to consider. This word is related, and its related forms, refer to an outstanding and to outstanding leaders, outstanding leadership, who are worthy to be recognized and honored. These leaders held a noteworthy and a superior position in the eyes of other people, and they commanded people's respect and honor and silence when in their presence. And so, if you add these Greek word meanings to the other interpreted phrase that I read just a minute ago, it might say this. This verse might say this: do not jockey for position or try to prove your importance to others with a lot of hollow, empty boasting and self-promotion. Instead, have a modest opinion of yourself and learn to recognize the outstanding contributions that others have to impart. Boy, think about that for just a minute. How do we normally have conversation? When we think about our normal conversations, and when we think about the conversations that are happening in our communities and in our society right now, are they a conversation where people are promoting each other, when they're valuing each other over themselves, or are they out there self-promoting? Are they out there boasting these empty boasts to make themselves look better? And I'm not referring to politicians who are campaigning. That's a whole different deal. But I'm talking about when we have normal conversations, whether it's about jobs, work, politics, religion, family, sports, whatever it might be. Do we get in those conversations with that person, and do we have a goal in that conversation to value that other person over ourselves? How would that change our conversations? And I'm telling you, that's a struggle for me. Sometimes I have to work at really hard, and sometimes I do okay, and sometimes I don't, and I have to really work at it. Because it's fun to have the center of attention sometimes. It's fun to be able to tell a good story, if we're really, really honest. But then if I look at this particular passage, and I think I have to approach it better than that. And so I need to ask myself and be honest. Am I valuing other people above myself? But how does that change our relationships? How does that change our culture? How does that change our communities if we were all to focus on in our conversations and in our activities promoting the other person, or valuing the other person over ourselves, and not being self-promoting? How would it be if we were to respect the outstanding and awesome gifts and ideas that God has given to other people, instead of incessantly talking and hogging every conversation? Maybe we work out and focus on making room for the gifts that lie resident in other people, because their gifts and talents and abilities are just as important as mine are. And so let's encourage one another by valuing other people over ourselves, by giving them the spotlight, I have to work on it, and I'm going to continue working on it, but I challenge us all to work on it. And let's change the world around us. Let's change the culture around us as we make other people more important than ourselves. Let's make somebody feel special today. Let them feel important for the gifts and talents and abilities that God has given them. Hope this is encouraging to you. I love you guys. I value you guys very much, and I appreciate you being on here and listening today. And I hope that you have a great day, and I hope that you have a great week this week.